I'm going to start the meeting. Just give me a wee second here. Right, I'm just expanding my screen so I can see everybody. Right, okay. Mark, declaration of interest from anyone? Mark.
Okay, just.
Can I just mention Bob Burgess is having trouble getting in, the convener, but he will join shortly.
Well, I was talking to Mark, but I can't see him now.
I'm here, convener. So I think Councillor Douglas has put in a declaration of interest for item 5. Councillor Douglas, what's the nature of the declaration?
Yes, I know the family of the parties involved.
So know the applicant.
Excellent. Is there any apologies?
Yes, so far I've got apologies from Councillors Curran, Councillor Paul Kelly, Councillor Anderson and Councillor Graham. Okay,
no further apologies from the meeting then, not from anyone that's not been added. No, thank you very much. Okay, I'll move straight into it. We've got a few items on the agenda today. So bear with me, I'm just recovering from COVID. If I cough, then I just can't help it. So item 2 is the planning application 21/01489/FUL, was the erection of 2 dwellings on the land to the west of 95 Earlston Crescent, Cambro Coatbridge, and it's page 5 to 14. And you can see on page 5 is basically the local review procedure which we're going to follow. And I think we've got Mary-Ann Watson to present this paper for tomorrow. Mary-Ann.
Okay, your papers at pages 5 to 114 contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation responses, representations, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The proposal is for 2 dwellings and is located land to the west of 95 Earlston Crescent, Cambro. The application site is located on Earlston Crescent, a residential area in Cambro Coatbridge, and is 443 square metres in area and currently forms part of a wider area of open space within the general urban area designed and maintained as part of the open space provision for the surrounding housing development. The site is characterised by established 2-storey semi-detached dwellings and areas of landscaped open space. The local Disputer Road, Earlston Crescent, bounds part of the south of the site before breaking into expansive open space. The remainder of is bounded by amenity open space which extends to the rear garden area of residential dwellings on Earlston Crescent and Tweedsmuir Place. Your photographs and map extracts on pages 103 to 114 show the location plan and photographs showing the site and its setting and aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the site plan, floor plans, elevations, street elevations and artist impressions. The appellant has requested a hearing on the basis that the reason for refusals are grounded on the use of the land as public amenity open space, which collides with the private tenure of the land. I will now hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Thanks for that, Mary-Ann. If we can agree, colleagues, that we've got enough information to continue, so Mary-Ann can go through stage 2 and stage 3. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, Mary-Ann.
Thank you, convener. I will now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultations and application for review. As previously stated, the application is for 2 dwellings at land to the west of 95 Earlston Crescent, Cambro. The application site is located on Earlston Crescent in an area that currently forms part of a wider area of open space within the general urban area designed and maintained as part of the open space provision for the surrounding housing development. I will now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's Report of Handling, pages 41 to 48 of your papers, to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. Planning policy. The application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017 and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. A local plan map extract is in your papers at page 113. The relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan and associated guidance are dated on pages 71 to 102 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. Policies 8 Safe 1, protecting residential amenity and community facilities, DSP 4, quality of development, Scottish Planning Policy, Planning Advice Note 65, Planning and Open Space. The Planning Officer's report of handling considered that the proposed development would be detrimental to the character and setting of the area and thereby contrary to policy HCF 1A, DSP 4 and Scottish Planning Policy, paragraph 29, as it is considered that the removal of this area of amenity of open space would have a detrimental impact on the setting and established amenity of the wider housing area. Furthermore, the development does not accord with the principles of sustainable design by virtue of location, as the site forms an important landscape design component, framing an urban area which functions as a means of attracting people into the local natural environment by maintaining community access, recreation opportunities and environmental quality close to and within the community. The report of handling recommended that the proposal should be refused for the reason justification and then the reasons for refusal on pages 9 and 48 of your papers. The application was reviewed planning permission on the 16th of November 21. I will now highlight other considerations noted in the Planning Officer's report handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. Consultations. NLC Protective Services had no objection to the proposed development, subject to comments on construction noise, house of work, dust and lighting and conditions in relating to site investigations and remediation. NLC Traffic and Transportation did not object to the proposal, but provided comments with regards to the required visibility displays, access and parking provision. Archaeology Service. The Archaeologist advising North Lanarkshire Council commented on the previous application 19000702 FUL, where the red line boundary included this site that the development has the potential to damage previous unknown archaeology remains. As such, if we were minded to approve the application, a planning condition could be imposed stating that no development shall take place within the development area until a programme of archaeological works in accordance with a written scheme of investigation has been submitted by the applicant and agreed with the local archaeology service and planning authority in writing. Representations. There were 6 representations in relation to this application that included 2 from the same individual and a further 2 from the same address, so counted as 4 objections in total. These are on pages 50 to 59 of your papers and can be summarised as objecting to the proposal on the basis of loss of daylight and overshadowing, loss of privacy, development not in keeping with the surrounding dwellings, the proposal is contrary to the local development plan, green space in the estate has been in existence for over 40 years and is used by local residents for recreation and contributes to their physical and mental well-being. Previous applications to build in the site have been rejected. Impact on wildlife, additional impact on current infrastructure, education, traffic impact and construction traffic. Concerns that if approved will lead to further development of the site. Damage to the area behind the proposed dwellings if approved, as it will become a building site. The applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents on pages 11 to 40 of your papers. That statement expresses in summary the applicant's view is that the design of the proposal is acceptable. There has been no objection to the proposed development from any statutory consultees. The land is designated as general urban area and there is no indication of any specific protection or inclusion within an amenity area and is not protected within the local development plan. The delegated report refers to a previous application for 17 units refused after appeal to the Scottish Ministers. The current application is for 2 semi-detached dwellings and it should be assessed on its own merits and is considered a reasonable compromise between the amenity value of the land and the development opportunity of private land. The appellant strongly believes that the planning authority is not assessing this application on its own merits. The impact of the amenity value of the wider site will be negligible due to the size of the site. The land is private ownership and this tenure collides with the use as amenity space for the public. The land is surrounded by rear gardens with no formal path connection for wide areas. In preventing any development in favour of the residents' amenity, the land is effectively taken from the owner with no compensation. The site has no ecological value and access to the rest of the land is maintained. The proposal will maintain the existing character of the area, filling what is a gap site in the street's frontage. The rear garden depth for the proposed dwelling is consistent with the properties at 93 and 95 Elston Crescent, and the gardens will become an addition to the existing south boundary of the open land. The proposal should be assessed on their own merits and the Council remains able to refuse further developments. Therefore, no precedents will be established if the application is granted. A further 2 representations on pages 60 to 69 were submitted and in response to the submission of the notice of review, and can be summarised as follows. The submitted drawing showing neighbouring homes as having the same coloured windows and door frames as the intended properties, which is not the case, refers to the previous objections and reasons for refusal as evidence the application should be refused, raised concerns relating to the proposed driveway access and pedestrian safeway, impact on daylight and view, design and finish of the proposed dwelling is not in keeping with the existing dwellings constructed by the applicant, loss of open space. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which require to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I will now hand you back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, any questions members may have, and a decision and reason justification. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Mary-Ann, for your presentation. Colleagues, is there any observations, questions on the presentation that's been put forward by Mary-Ann? Or anything else? Observations? No, don't see anything yet. There's nothing on the chat bar. Martin, come through? No.
Nothing on the chat bar, convener.
Nothing. Yep. Okay. Well, as with procedure, I'm going to move the decision notice on page 9, which is to refuse the application. Do I have seconder?
I'll second that, convener.
Seconded by Councillor McVeigh. Is anyone otherwise minded? Okay. The item has been refused. Moving on to item 3. It's the plan application 21/015/P. It's a planning permission in principle for one dwelling to replace current garage at 1 Baldoran Crescent, Cumbernauld. It's pages 115 to 164. And we've got Eddie McClenaghan. Eddie?
Thanks, convener. As the convener stated, the plan application 21/0115 PPP, your papers is noted at 115 to 164, contained the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The application is for plan permission in principle for one dwelling to replace a current garage, and it's located at 1 Baldoran Crescent, Balloch, Cumbernauld. The application site comprises the side and rear garden ground, including the detached double garage of number 1 Baldoran Crescent. The property at number 1 occupies a corner plot and is a 2-storey dwelling house with dual frontage and is located within a cul-de-sac of 6 houses in an established residential area. The photographs and map extracts on pages 155 to 163 show the location plan and the photographs showing the site and its setting and aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the site plan, indicative layout plan, and indicative elevations. I will now hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Okay, again, colleagues, if we feel we've got enough information to continue, will we go ahead with it? Yep. Agreed. Okay, we're agreed. Byron.
Thanks, convener. I'll now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultations, and application for review. As previously stated, the application seeks planning permission in principle for a single dwelling to replace a current garage at 1 Baldoran Crescent, Balloch, Cumbernauld. The site's proposed plot is located to the west of number 1 Baldoran Crescent and can be described as an L shape and would measure approximately 360 square metres with a frontage width of 6 metres onto Baldoran Crescent. I will now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling on pages 149 to 151 of your papers to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017 and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. A local plan map extract is in your papers on page 164. The relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan are detailed in pages 153 and 154 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. Policies HCF1, protecting residential amenity and community facilities, ESP4, quality of development. The Planning Officer's report of handling considered that the proposed dwelling house and plot fails to accord with policies HCF1A and DSP4 in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan, in that it would not integrate successfully into into the local area by virtue of its awkward plot shape and required house positioning within the plot. Furthermore, the development could not accommodate the level of required in-curtilage parking provision for both the proposed plot and the existing remaining dwelling house, meaning that it fails to relate well to the existing wider context and would be detrimental to residential amenity and road safety. The report of handling recommended that the proposal should be refused for the reason, justification, and the reasons for refusal on pages 118 and 119 of your papers. The application was refused planning permission on the 7th of September 2021. I will now highlight the other considerations noted in the planning officer's report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of consultations, no responses were received. There were no representations received in relation to the application. The applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents in pages 121 to 154 of your papers. The statement expresses, in summary, the applicant's view that the North Lanarkshire Local Plan is more than 5 years out of date. Therefore, Section 33 of Scottish Planning Policy states that where relevant policies in the development plan are out of date, or the plan does not contain policies relevant to the proposal, then the presumption in favour of development that contributes to sustainable development will be a significant material consideration. The development is not detrimental to the surrounding residential amenity, as there will be no issues of overlooking, overshadowing, or obstruction of light. The development would have adequate parking for up to 2 cars, and the existing plot can develop parking spaces to the side of the property under permitted development. The site was originally the show house. Looking at the land associated with the original property and the excessive width of the neighbouring driveway and double garage, it is evident that there was an intention to put another building on that site. The land associated with the proposal, not including current dwelling and garden on the site, is 0.1 acre. Therefore, there is adequate garden amenity for potential residential property. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered in its own merits and in accordance with the policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which require to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I'll now hand you back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, any questions members may have, and the decision and reason justification.
Okay, thanks Eddie for that. Colleagues, any questions, observations for the officer on his presentation?
Convener.
Councillor McVeigh.
How you doing, Eddie?
Hi, Councillor.
Okay. You mentioned traffic issues there. How dangerous is that road? Can you impact? Can you tell us anything about that regarding the impacts of traffic on that road?
In terms of the traffic impact that's been assessed, the officer was talking about the lack of parking provision on the site. Now, it's noted in the report and in the applicant statement that under PD rights they could access the existing house with a new driveway, but that driveway would need to be located closer to the existing junction. In terms of the actual impact that would have, that would be something that would need to be assessed by our colleagues in transportation.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else? No one else?
I have put in the chat bar, convener. Sorry.
Sorry, Alan, it's just come up there now. Fire ahead, on you go.
No problem, thanks. Eddie, question regarding the photograph in page 133 shows it's obviously a corner site, but it's just to see what evidence there was to the assertion that this was originally the show house and there was evidence that there was going to be a house built at this location. Can that be substantiated? Thanks.
To be honest, convener, it can't really, because obviously that would be on the basis that it would be the house builder's intention. So there's no clear evidence to suggest either it was going to be another plot or it wasn't. So I can't give you any more information on that, unfortunately. That would have been something that would have been for the house builder to decide. They obviously chose not to develop that site, and on that basis, that's the layout that came out once it was developed.
Thanks. So there was never any application in at all for the development.
Not that I've seen,
Okay.
And there's nothing referenced in the history.
Thanks, Kavia.
Okay. Any more questions for anyone? No. Again,
Nothing else in the chat bar, convener.
nothing in the chat bar. I don't see anyone waving at me, so Excuse me. So I'm going to, again, as per procedure, I'm going to move the decision notice, which is page 118, 119, which is to refuse. Do I have a seconder?
Great, Convener.
Seconded by Councillor McVeigh. Anyone otherwise minded? No one else seems otherwise minded, so the item has been refused. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is the plan application 21/00517 treble P, which is erection of a dwelling house in principle at 1 Camp Road Cottage, Camp Road, Motherwell. And Eddie, you're up again. It's page 165 to 248.
Thanks, Convener. Plan application 21/00517 PPP is located on your papers at 167 to 246, and they contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation responses, representations, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. As the convener has said, the description was for an erection of a dwelling house in principle, and it's located at 1 Camp Road Cottages, Camp Road, Motherwell. The application site is located in the rear garden area of 1 Camp Road Cottages, which is part of a small cluster of existing detached properties within a wider residential area. The properties are accessed by a more informal road beyond the more conventional layout of houses at Harvest Drive and Herald Grove. Beyond the rear garden boundary is land and mature trees. Your photographs and map extracts in pages 237 to 246 show the location plan, photographs showing the site and its setting, and aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the existing block plan, proposed site plan, and site section. I'll now hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Okay, thanks for that. If we've got enough information, we'll proceed with the hearing, colleagues. Yeah, agreed. Okay, we're agreed.
No problem. Thank you, convener. I'll now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultation, and application for review. As previously stated, applications for erection of a dwelling house in principle at 1 Camp Road Cottages, Camp Road, Motherwell. The application site is located to the rear of the garden area of 1 Camp Road Cottages, which is part of a small cluster of existing detached properties within the wider residential area. I will now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling on pages 227 to 230 of your papers to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of the case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Plan, Strategic Development Plan 2017, and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan. A local plan map extract is in your papers on page 247. The relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan are detailed in pages 235 and 236 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. HCF1, protecting residential, amenity and community facilities. DSP4, quality of development. Planning Officer's report of handling considered that the proposed development would be contrary to policy DSP4, quality of development, as the subdivision of the existing garden ground would not create a plot large enough to accommodate a new dwelling house with an appropriate level of functional garden ground. In addition, the proposals would create an unacceptable form of backland development with substandard access and vehicular facilities and would result in an unacceptable impact on the character of the residential area. The report of handling recommended that the proposal should be refused for the reason justification and the reasons for refusal on pages 168 and 169 of your papers. The application was refused planning permission on the 5th of November 2021. I will now highlight the other considerations noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of consultations, the Coal Authority had no objection to the proposed development. In terms of representations, one representation in relation to the application was received. This is noted in page 234 of your papers. It can be summarised as not objecting to the proposal, but sets out concerns in relation to a significant volume of heavy plant and machinery used for construction of the dwelling, which may cause damage to the access road, and requests a condition be imposed that the access road be maintained to a high standard. In terms of the review application, the applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents in pages 171 to 226 of your papers. The statement expresses in summary the applicant's view that the proposed subdivision of the plot would still allow for a plot ratios and sufficient garden ground to service both dwellings. The topography of the site would allow for a design of a dwelling that blends into the existing contours of the site to form an acceptable form of development that would cause no visual impact or unacceptable impact on the character of the residential area. The access is more than capable of allowing vehicles to enter and leave the site in forward gear, and no objection was raised by the Roads Authority. No trees will be removed. No objections were received from consultees, including the Coal Authority or the public. It would allow the existing house to be occupied by a growing family and release a smaller property into what is now an overheated housing market, where there is a distinct shortage of larger style homes. The drive in Scotland seems very much to promote affordable routes to self-building and to increase diversity of housing types and supply. The application was subject of a formal complaint regarding the length of time the decision was taking and was lodged long before the final decision had been made. In the course of the investigation by the Head of Planning and Regeneration, a number of issues with the department have been raised, which may have had a contributing influence over the outcome of this application. As with all applications, each case requires to consider its own merits in accordance with the policies, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which are required to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I will now hand back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, any questions members may have, and the decision and reason justification.
Okay, colleagues, thanks for that, Eddie. Any questions for the officer? Don't see anything, nobody waving. Oh. Agnes, sorry, I just caught you there. Agnes.
Thanks very much. I would like to put in a counter proposal, please, that this be passed on the ground.
Sorry, you're just too early with that just now.
Right.
Put that in at the end if you feel that you want to, but other people have got to say and have something to say before a proposal can go in. I see Alan Beveridge is up to speak again.
Well, I give the reasons just now, or
well, you can ask questions. I don't want any reasons just now. I want you to you've got questions to ask to the officer, and then at the end of that you can put in your reasons for your counter proposal.
Okay, I'll wait to the end then. Thank you, Bill.
You don't have any questions to officers for the reasons why you're doing that?
Well, I just don't understand, when there's no objections by the Coal Authority, no visual impact, no objection by roads, no objection by the public, that this should not be allowed to go ahead.
Eddie, can you take a stab at that?
In this case, the officers obviously made an assessment of the overall development, and they've concluded that it's contrary to the policy DSP4 and HCF1A. So, on the basis of the officers' assessment, they've came to the conclusion they don't think it's an acceptable form of development for that location.
Okay.
Alan.
Thanks, Convener. Eddie, it's just, could you confirm that initially planning permission was granted for 3 houses at this location, as the applicant has stated, and also in relation to access road? Is this just to confirm, it would appear as if it's a private road. If you just confirm that, Eddie, thanks.
It is a private road. I would need to check to see the previous approval. I've not got that in front of me, but if you bear with me, I'll have a look.
Thanks.
Apologies, I'll need to open it up on my system. It can be quite slow.
I know, because I'll be back to the 1991, Eddie, when this was originally put on, but the applicant has clearly stated that there was initially permission for 3 houses here, and that would be quite an influential.
Yeah, I'm just checking to see, because obviously it would come up on the history in the actual report, but I don't recall seeing that. So it might be because it predates that. Our system only goes back until about 1997, 98. So I wouldn't be able to confirm that if it's that far back without actually searching on the kind of physical files, which I'm sure you'll understand hasn't been easy. given the current situation we're in. I would have to take it on merit of what they're saying, but I couldn't offer anything to say that that's not the case. We would need to have a look at that in terms of checking back the old files.
I think, convener, if you don't mind me coming in at this point, I think, and I completely understand the context for Councillor Beveridge's question. Obviously, the planning advisor has been unable to confirm that. But what I would stress to elected members is that this application should be taken on its own merits, and the reference to previous applications would not be applicable.
Can I come back in?
Sorry, Mark, that's what I was just about to say myself, but I'll let you back in again, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks, Mark. I totally understand what you're saying there, but given the applicant has raised this at the particular time, he's raised this as that when the house was built, permission was given for 3 houses. I'd have thought that was pertinent to this application, but I take it that's not the case. Thanks.
Well, in terms of any previous application, it would really be dependent on what the layout of those houses were and whether they were deemed to be acceptable. In this case, this house would be located effectively in the back garden. So without seeing that layout, and as Mark says, every application's on its own merits, in this particular case, the house is located to the rear of an existing property. So it has impacts in terms of its location relative to that. So it might not be a fair comparison, but without seeing the original approval, it's hard to say.
Sure, I understand that, Eddie. Thank you. Thanks, clear. Thanks, Xavier.
Councillor Stubbs.
Can you hear me all right, Bill?
Yeah, hear you fine, thanks.
Aye. I think it's a really important point Alan's just raised. I get what Mark and yourself are saying about on its own merits, and obviously Eddie's mentioned that it as it stands now, this means it would be in the back garden, but it really would have been. I think it would have been helpful for this to be looked at before it was brought before us, and we could have seen what, because it might be that the previous application had it wasn't a back garden yet because there was no houses on the site, but the third house might have been exactly what the back garden now is for this particular application. So I don't know that it's relevant to say that it's in the back garden, and I accept that every planning application has to be taking its own merits, but the merits of this are that this site did have permission for 3 houses previously and currently only has 2. So that is taking it on its own merits, and I think it's an important point. I would support Aggie and what she's about to do.
Well, your point's noted, and obviously it's going way back to a previous authority prior to North Lanarkshire. So I don't know whether that would be relevant at all. But I'm not a planner. Right. So anyone got anything? I don't see any into the waiving. So, well, as with procedure, I'm going to move the refusal, which is page 168 and 170. Aggie, I understand you want in to do a counter proposal, which is an amendment. Fire away, and we'll see if it's competent. Sorry, excuse me. Unless there's a point of order, you can't get back in again.
I'm only asking to come in after Aggie.
Right. Okay. Right. Agnes.
I would like to make a counter proposal that the planning permission is allowed for this property on the grounds of really no objections, co-authority, no objections. There is sufficient garden, no visual impact, no objection by roads, no objection by the public, and there's one small concern that the road is maintained if it is damaged by heavy plant construction, but it's not actually an objection, it's just a concern. And the fact that 3 houses, there was planning permission for 3 houses and there are only 2. So I would like to put forward a counter proposal that the planning permission for this property is passed.
Mark, is there, and amongst all that, something relevant that we can use?
There is, convener. I would stop short about the planning permission that previously for 3 houses, because I don't think we've agreed that position, Councillor McGowan. But I think what you've said previously, that the application be granted on the grounds that there was no impact on the local environment, there was no visual impact, and there had been no objections from local residents or any of the consultees.
Okay, have you got a seconder for that?
Aye, Bill, I'll second it. Can I just add that
There's
That was a bit
no
younger.
nothing procedure, Mark, for you to add anything to it. You've had your say, you know, so
I'm
I'll
not allowed to
accept
speak to
it.
second it.
No,
Since
that's
when?
never been the procedure, Mark.
Convener, it would be entirely within your gift to allow Councillor Stubbs to just add to what Councillor McGowan said.
Right, well, okay, I'll allow it, since it's the last meeting, I'll allow you to go with it, right? As long as we're not setting a precedent for the new convener the next time round.
I'm sure people have spoken to seconding before, but thank you very much. The in the early days of the committee of this particular council, so we're talking nearly 5 years ago, we were discussing an application somewhere else, and the leader of the council, probably rightly and on reflection, said that as North Lanarkshire Council should be looking to where it can and where it doesn't have an impact on the things that we're talking about, we should be looking to
Hang on a
invest
second,
in buildings.
Alan, hang on a second, we've got a point of order from Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Councillor Shields. This is new information. I thought it was summing up. And at that point, I'm quite happy to second Councillor Shields as well.
Alan, we're straying into different grounds here. I think we'll just accept your second. I'm not going to allow you to bring in new information. So I think we should go ahead and go with
I'm
this.
justifying my reason for seconding it, Bill. I'm not bringing new information in, and it's not. This is not a political debate that we're having. This is a quasi-judicial committee.
Be careful what you're saying. Be careful what you're saying in your presentation, then, right?
Aye, I'm only giving reflection on what has been said at this committee in the past, and I'm supporting what was said previously by the leader of the council. The investment in North Lanarkshire is crucial. It's investment in North Lanarkshire is a crucial thing, and to allow more house building where it has almost zero impact on environment or amenity services should be supported, and that's the reason. I don't know what's happening here, Bill. I'm quite happy to second it. I'll stop there.
Okay, I kind of jumped the gun there when I moved the refusal. I didn't ask for a seconder.
I'll second that, convener.
Seconded by Councillor McVeigh. Right, so I will go straight to the vote then. Mark?
Yep, thank you, convener. There's a number of apologies, so just bear with me as I get through the elected members. So, Councillor, I'll clarify first. The motion is to refuse the application as per the officer recommendation. The amendment is to grant the application. So, I'll just run through each elected member. So, Councillor Anderson is an apology. So, Councillor Beveridge.
Amendment.
Councillor Burgess.
Amendment.
Councillor Michael Coyle.
Amendment.
Councillor Sophia Coyle.
Grant.
We'll then get Councillor Douglas.
Motion.
Then get Councillor Lennon.
Amendment.
Councillor McGowan.
Amendment.
Councillor McKendrick.
Amendment.
Councillor McLaren.
Motion.
Councillor McManus.
Amendment.
Councillor McVeigh.
Refuse.
Sorry, I missed out Councillor McPake there. Apologies, Councillor McPake. So we'll go to Councillor McPake first.
Motion.
And then we'll get Councillor McVeigh, who was motion as well.
Motion.
Councillor Quigley.
Amendment.
We've got Councillor Redding.
Motion.
We've got Councillor Shields.
Motion.
We've got Councillor Stubbs.
Amendment.
And finally, we've got Councillor Watson.
Amendment.
Thank you. The motion has attracted 6 votes. The amendment has attracted 11 votes. Therefore, the application is granted. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, thanks for that. Moving on to item 5 is the plan application 21/01385 Pebble P, the construction of a single detached dwelling house site at the Old Mill Road, Allington. And it's page 249 to page 336. Eddie, you're back up again.
Thanks, convener. Plan application number 21/01385 PPP is at your papers in 251 to 336, and they contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation responses, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. As previously described, it's for the construction of a single detached dwelling house, and it's located at Old Mill Road in Allington. The application site is an area of some 0.25 hectares of a mixture of hard standing, grass and planting, with the site access to the north of Allington, accessed off Old Mill Road. The site is surrounded by fields to the east and west, and with an area of hard standing with storage buildings to the north. There's an existing residential unit on the site, which was granted temporary planning permission under plan application 15/02272 full. This temporary permission has since expired on the 20th of April 2019. Your photographs and map extracts on pages 329 to 335 show the location plan, and the photographs showing the site and its setting, aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the existing proposed layout plan. I'll now hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Okay, colleagues, if we're happy with that, we'll proceed to stage 2 and stage 3. Okay. Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, convener. I will now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultations, and application for review. As previously stated, the application is for the construction of a single detached dwelling house at a site located at Old Mill Road, Allington. The application proposes a single detached dwelling that would replace the current temporary residential unit, and in addition, all other development within the site is proposed to be removed. The specific design of the proposed dwelling house would be considered at the reserved matters stage if approved. I'll now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling, pages 295 to 298 of your papers, to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017, and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. The location plan map extract is in your papers at page 336. The relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan and associated guidance are detailed in pages 303 to 328 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. Policies NBE 3B Rural Investment Areas, DSP 4 Quality of Development, SPG 08 Development in the Rural Investment Area. The Planning Officer's report of handling considered that the proposed development would be contrary to policy NBE 3B and SPG 08 of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan, as it constitutes inappropriate development in the rural investment area, as it does not fulfil the requirements of enhancing an existing development cluster, and that no adequate justification, special circumstances, or material considerations have been demonstrated but to merit a departure from the development plan. The report of handling recommended that the proposal should be refused for the reason, justification, and the reasons for refusal in pages 252 and 253 of your papers. The application was refused planning permission on the 9th of December 2021. I will now highlight other considerations noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of consultations, NLC Roads and Transportation were consulted but offered no comments. NLC Protective Services advised that the site investigation and possible remediation would be required, and conditions regarding site investigation and remediation should be included with any permission. In terms of representations, there was no representations in relation to the application. The applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents in pages 255 to 294 of your papers. The statement expresses in summary the applicant's view that the proposed development is not out of context with other smaller settlements in the area. The appellant notes some contradictions and inaccuracies in the report of handling, including reference to another property and contradictory planning history, as the Planning Officer makes reference to planning application 10/00607 full in the planning history, but advises later in the report that the permission is located outward the current application site, thus failing to notice that the planning history section of the report was not accurate. A recommendation of approval was public on the planning portal and viewable for a week. The personal circumstances of the applicant are considered material. Disruption to the children's education are a material planning consideration and outweighed Greenbelt policy, or in this case rural investment area, which is related to Greenbelt policy, as was recognised by a court in the case of Basildon DC versus the Secretary of State of the Environment, Transport and Regions English court decision, and is therefore a material planning consideration in Scottish planning. The site could not be properly viewed from Google Street View. There were no objections from neighbours or statutory consultees. Documents for the previous application were not available online for public inspection. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with the policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues required to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I'll now hand you back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, and any questions members may have, and the decision and reason justification.
Okay, thanks, colleagues. Questions for the officer. First of all, I've got Claire Quigley.
Thanks, convener. As a local member in this case, I was really surprised when the application was refused. I understand it may not meet certain criteria laid down in the local development plan and the rural setting in particular, but the family have lived here for 10 years. The 3 children from the family attend local primary school in Arlington, and the grandparents live close by and they provide much needed childcare support because both parents work. You know, the impact on this family would be really quite devastating if they had to leave the area, particularly on the children who would more than likely have to go and attend another school, a different school, and it would have to cope with the upheaval that goes with that. And, you know, I think in the past 2 years, children have suffered more than enough disruptions to their education due to the pandemic without something like this.
Claire, have you got a question amongst all that?
No, it's an observation, and I would certainly be looking to put up an alternative, you know, to accept. Yeah, I would put up an alternative. Can I just finish what I wanted to say, really? I mean, it's a single-storey building is proposed to replace an existing temporary home. It's really like for like, except the new home would be a vast improvement on what is there right now, and it would contribute to the area's visual amenity. So I would like consideration to be given to the educational needs of the children, which should be viewed as a material consideration in this case. Thank you.
Is there anything there that you want to make a comment about?
I think in terms of that, obviously the officer weighs up material considerations as part of its assessment in terms of the application, and the applicant has noted some legal precedent set in England, but when you read into that, the reporters at pains to say that it's special circumstances by their very nature are special circumstances. In this case, the officers determined that they weren't sufficient to outweigh. That doesn't mean that the councillors have, you know, they can't take a different view on that basis in terms of the special circumstances. That is why we have this procedure.
Convener, we've got a point of order from Councillor.
Yeah, I see it here myself. Point of order from Alan. Alan, you want to come in before Councillor Stubbs in?
It was just, it's past now, convener, but it was just to say that I mean, you allowed the councillor there to make a statement, but the last application you didn't allow the councillor to make a statement. That was it. But just it's past now. Just leave it. Thanks.
Oh.
Councillor Stubbs.
Before my question, Bill, I know I understand the frustration of things in different matters, but I think it's important for councillors, particularly on this committee, to hear from local members about what local people are saying. So I think that the contribution from Claire there is a really important one, and I think one that everybody should take cognizance of when making the decision when that time comes. My question is very short. What is the response from the planning service to the allegations of or the suggestion that there are contradictions in the planning officer's report?
In terms of the report, I had a look at it, and it appears that the planning history from an adjacent site was pulled through onto the actual committee report. It's clarified further down in the report, but it's evident that the officer had obviously forgotten to remove the reference to a site that was adjacent to the site but not within the application site. So it is correct that there was reference to an application site in the history that wasn't related to this application site, but it is clarified further down in the report that it's not related to the site.
Okay, just going back, Alan, when Claire was putting forward this, before that, Agnes was ready to put a motion forward right at the start. That was why I said if she was going to do the motion, leave it to the end. Claire's obviously was her as the local member. One thing you need to remember, people, is this is a second stab at something, and the comments from local members are already there in the planning papers. So I don't think it's always really relevant that you hear a local review from the local members when it should really have been, that should have really come up at the planning itself.
I'm sorry, can I come in, Bill? I've never expressed a view on this particular case because this was a delegated decision. It didn't come before the planning committee.
Okay. Point taken.
I think Councillor Michael Coyle's looking to come in, convener.
Michael, sorry, I don't see you on the chat bar, so that's why I couldn't see.
I did raise my hand in it, Bill, but thanks anyway, Mark, for indicating that. I totally sympathise and agree with Claire Quigley, the local member, of the situation up there with the family, but I'd like to draw the attention to page 290 with the current dwelling. Now, was that given planning permission before, Eddie?
The current dwelling is a temporary consent that has expired, but in terms of there being an application in at the moment to replace it, any kind of issues.
At the time, it was consented at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a temporary consent for a temporary dwelling on that site. Yes.
So, as Claire says, it's going to be replaced by a like for like, a single story dwelling there that's going to be replacing that.
Effectively, what they propose to do is remove that temporary structure and other structures on the site and replace it with a permanent dwelling. You're correct, yes, Councillor.
Well, I'll certainly be Claire Quigley on this now. Thanks. Thanks, Bill.
Councillor Stubbs.
Hi, a question just popped out of my head, quite an important one, I think, based on that interaction. If this is temporary, if the current residence is a temporary planning permission that has expired, is there theoretically a possibility this family could be evicted and told to tear down their home?
Well, effectively, they could reapply for another temporary consent, or they could, you know, as they've done, apply for a replacement dwelling, which we're considering today. But you know, if their consents run out and enforcement action was taken, then that is a possibility.
That's credible.
Sorry, I'm going to mute you. Bob.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I think Alan's point throws a totally different aspect onto the whole thing, and I would certainly be supporting Claire on this one.
Okay. If there's no one else is going to come in, I'm going to look for a motion from the floor then.
Councillor Quigley.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I would like to put forward a motion that we uphold this appeal and grant the application so that a family with established links to the community continue to live in the area they've called home for the last 10 years. And the educational needs and well-being of the children should be considered as material in this case.
Second that, Chair.
Seconded by who?
Councillor
second
Burgess.
that.
Right, on you go.
Right, so seconded by Bob Burgess. Okay. Okay, is anyone otherwise minded? Okay, there's no other motion forward, so the item has been granted. Okay. Moving on to item 6. It's a planning application 21/01281/FUL is a 3-storey block of 12 flats with associated landscaping and car parking at 451 Main Street, Wishaw. And Mary Ann, you're up again.
Thank you, convener. Your papers at pages 339 to 652 contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation responses, representations, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The proposal is for a 3-storey block of 12 flats with associated landscaping and car parking at 451 Main Street, Wishaw. The application site is a vacant land formerly occupied by Wishaw Ex-Servicemen's Club, which is a corner plot fronting a small roundabout on the corner of Low Main Street and Cleland Road. The clubhouse of Wishaw Golf Club is diagonally opposite, but the rest of the surrounding area is predominantly residential and includes a mixture of buildings including bungalows, large villas and flats. The two properties direct boundaring the site are both small bungalows. One is actually 1.5 storey but is of bungalow appearance. The site is close to the edge of Wishaw Town Centre, around 100 metres east, while a ground play area is situated approximately 70 metres to the west. A previous application for a 4-storey block of 12 flats for private sale was submitted in December 2019 and was refused under delegated powers on the 21st of February 2020. The North Lancashire Local Review Body refused an appeal against the refusal in August 2020. Your photographs and map extracts on pages 629 to 652 show the location plan and photographs showing the site and its settings and aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as existing and proposed layout plans, floor plans and elevations. I will now hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, if we've got enough information, we'll proceed to parts 2 and parts 3. Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, convener. I will now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultations and applications for review. As previously stated, the application is for a 3-storey block of 12 flats with associated landscaping and car parking at 451 Main Street, Wishaw. I will now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's Report of Handling, pages 605 to 610 of your papers, to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination in this case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Development Plan 2017 and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lancashire Local Plan 2012. A local plan map extract is in your papers at page 652. The relevant policies in the North Lancashire Local Plan and associated guidance are detailed on pages 623 to 628 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. Policies HCF1A, protecting residential amenity and community facilities, DSB4, quality of development, NBE2B, promoting the built environment. The Planning Officer's Report of Handling considered that the proposed development would appear large relatively to neighbouring properties, therefore appearing as an incongruous feature on a prominent corner and detract from the setting of neighbouring listed buildings. As such, is contrary to policies HCF1A, DSP4 and NBE2B. The development would detract from the amenity of adjacent residential properties by reason of overlooking and loss of privacy, and as such contrary to policy DSP4. Narrowing of the public footpath from the safety and convenience of road users and the proposed layout is substandard in terms of quality of parking provision and manoeuvring space, as such is contrary to policy DSP4. The report of handling recommended that the proposal should be refused for the reason justification and in the reasons for refusal on pages 609 and 340 to 341 of your papers. The application was refused planning permission on the 14th of December 2021. I will now highlight other considerations noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessments and determination of this case. In terms of consultations, NLC Roads recommended refusal due to the narrowing of the existing footway at the roundabout, also concerns about the layout and quality of the proposed parking. Location of the bin store was unsatisfactory. NLC Environmental Health requested a noise impact assessment prior to determination and various conditions relating to site investigation, remediation and construction work. NLC Education requested a developer contribution of £8,769.71 to address constraints in local primary school capacity to which the developer would contribute. Coal Authority, no objections. There were 3 representations received in relation to this application. These are on pages 620 to 622 of your papers and can be summarised as objecting to the proposal on the basis of concerns regarding overdevelopment of the site, height is out of scale and character with neighbouring bungalows, height is overbearing and would overlook neighbouring homes and gardens, potential parking overspills onto street roundabout, bins door too close to neighbouring houses, therefore issues with odour, noise, vermin, etc. The site should be developed as a bungalow instead. The applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents on pages 345 to 604 of your papers. The statement expresses in summary the applicant's view is that the site is surrounded by a variety of housing types and sizes, including bungalows, large villas and flats. A block of 3 and 4 storey flats is located opposite the appeal site on the corner of Main Street and also May Gardens. The proposed development has been designed as an appropriate response to the prominent corner site at 451 Main Street, Wishaw. The design has evolved from previous iterations and will now deliver 12 affordable housing units across a 3-storey block. It is considered that all of the reasons for the previous refusals have been addressed. The previous application for 12 flats for private sale was submitted in December 2019 and was refused under delegated powers and again refused at the local review body. The proposal will deliver 12 new affordable housing units. Built form and materiality looks to address and emphasise the corner plot position overlooking the existing roundabout. Attractive frontage onto Main Street are proposed with vehicle access leading to a private parking court providing 12 parking spaces. Trust Housing Association welcomed the opportunity of providing further affordable homes within Wishaw. Trust Housing Association consider that the level of parking is adequate given the very low levels of car ownership amongst the customer base. The notice of review states how the proposal was redesigned to take account of previous reasons for refusal. Revised design and height reduced to 3 storeys. Top floor has been cladded to give the impression of a mansard roof and reduce the perceived impact of height. The site is surrounded by a variety of housing types and sizes. The building has been set back from neighbouring buildings. The current proposal will standardise the width of the pavement to 2 metres for the entirety of the footway at the corner of Main Street and Cleland, in line with the national standards and in common with other footways in the vicinity of the site. It considered 12 parking spaces to be provided, which equates to 100%. NLC agreed this was acceptable where affordable housing is to be delivered. Proposal contributes to a number of North Lanarkshire Council strategic objectives, including town centre regeneration, redevelopment of brownfield sites and improving housing quality, will deliver much needed affordable homes in line with the development plan. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which require to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I will now hand you back to the convener for agreement of the policy position, material considerations, any questions members may have, and a decision and reason justification. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, questions for the officer? Anyone? Councillor Burgess.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, could I just get a wee bit of clarification on the actual footpath? It does say it's legal. Why is it being used as an anti sort of against the proposals? If it's legal, are you telling us that it's illegal?
I think it was Rose that made the comment about the path not being wide enough. That was the comments from Rhodes.
Yeah, but going by the sizes, it's legal. You know, there shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be there, I don't think. That's the only question I've got, convener. Thank you.
Noted. Councillor McPake.
Thanks, convener. I was down the same lines as that. Rhodes actually made the comment, not only was the path too narrow going round the corner there, but it was too close to the roundabout as well. So, Mary-Ann, could you maybe elaborate on what Rhodes have actually said, please?
Yeah, if you give me a wee second, I can get. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get their papers for you.
I think the Rhodes response is on page 611 of the
Yep.
papers.
So there's quite a few correspondence. They would have to recommend refusal for the fundamental reason that the applicant has actually proposed to reduce the public footway to accommodate their building. Whereas Rhodes are desperately trying to increase public and cyclable vision as per the council policies, and aspirations not reduce it, and especially not at junctions where forward intervisibility between pedestrians and drivers is paramount. That is their comments.
Okay, thanks for that.
Convener, can I maybe come back in?
Michael, are you happy with that? If you want back in and supplementary?
Can I maybe come back in? That alongside Mary-Ann, 12 parking spaces for 12 flats. How common is that? If, you know, for instance, if North Lanarkshire Housing was building houses, there wouldn't be 12 spaces per.
No, in terms of this application, because it's affordable housing, there can be considered to be less amount of parking. But in this case, because of it's considered a low level parking that is specified by council standards, it would be justified if the development was to accommodate an otherwise acceptable design. However, this development is not considered to be satisfactory. Also, the parking layout is considered unsatisfactory by Rhodes. Rearranging it is not going to increase the numbers. And also, Rhodes have also commented at least 2 of the parking spaces have insufficient aisle width to allow convenient access and turning as well. So really, there isn't 12 usable parking spaces.
Thanks, Mary-Ann. Thank you.
I've got 3 speakers to come up here. It's Councillor Sophia Coyle, then Councillor Michael Coyle, and then Bob's wanting back in again, I think. So we'll go on that one. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Obviously, looking on page 357, I'm looking at the virtual meetings held between the applicant and NLC, and it seems like they have actually accommodated near enough every request that NLC is looking for. The parking, they're reduced to 100%. That's what they asked in the meeting on the 19th of May. Affordable housing is acceptable on this site. They've accommodated, seems as if they've accommodated and addressed the corner nature of the site, which was a concern. They've lowered the height on page 393 that was from a 4-storey to a 3-storey. And this proposal is basically supported by North Lanarkshire Council Housing Strategy Team because it's delivering affordable houses. I don't know what more they could do because obviously when, is it Marianne? Sorry if I get your name wrong. Basically in your statement, when you were reading it out, it was basically saying they're supportive, but they're not supportive. So really, I don't see what the issue is. It seems as if you've actually addressed all the concerns from the last time.
In the delegated report on page 457, the applicant was advised that the council recognised that there was potential for higher density than the 1 or 2 suggested. However, it was difficult to envisage 12 units ever being achievable on such a small site, given the height of the building, which was constrained by proximity to bungalows. The officer did suggest a more tenement-style building wrapping around the street corner, perhaps with 3 storeys as a landmark corner feature, but stepping down to 2 storeys, then may be more achievable. However, the application advice is just that, it's just advice until an application comes in, it has to be assessed.
Okay, thanks for that, Michael.
Thanks, Bill. I remember this application when it first came up, and it was just refused narrowly. But the most important thing about this application now, the applicants came back with a housing association on board, and this will be providing more needed social houses in Wishaw. And of course, the alternative will be, if it continues to be refused, it'll be a derelict eyesore for neighbours, but now has minimal overshadowing issues. Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Marianne, do you want to make a comment?
Sorry, it was a bad line there.
Is there anything what Michael said that you want to make a comment about?
No.
Have to. No, okay. Okay, just observation. Councillor Burgess. Sorry, Bob, can you just hang on a minute? Alan Stubbs has not been in yet. You've already been in, okay? Right. Alan.
Thanks, Bill. I think from memory, the last time this was up when we discussed it, one of the key concerns was the safety of road users and pedestrians at that corner. Have those been addressed in the new application? Forgive me if that's been covered. I think I was listening, but if I remember correctly, that was one of the key reasons that this was refused the last time.
Marianne?
The narrowing of the footpath is considered to be unacceptable by roads, as well as accessing the bins is an issue, and the parking's an issue as well.
Okay. Bob.
Thanks for letting me back in again, convener. Can I just bring up the point about the actual 3-storey flats? We've got 3-storey buildings all the way around that area. They've come from Glasgow Road right into Cleland Road, and then we've got them down the May Garden, a 3 and a 4, and then you've got them going up towards the main street. And the new build for Trust is 42 houses right on the main street at the corner. So yeah, I would say this is going to be in keeping with what's actually happening. But as far as the roundabout, and I think it was Councillor McPake that said it was too near the roundabout. But if you look at the map, see that the other side of the road is even more closer to the roundabout. So I don't see where they can come in on safety factors there. But I'll be bringing in a motion against this.
Okay, I'll take that as an observation then. Councillor Beveridge, wanting back in?
Thanks, convener. Yes, it was Alan Stubbs that covered what I was going to say, but I don't think it was answered quite correctly. Well, so I agree with Sophia that regarding the need for and Michael, the need for sustainable housing is just to make sure that the roads have come back and saying that there's still a safety implication at this location. No, I'm really concerned about that. Now, is there still a safety implication or not? I mean, the roads are clearly saying that it's no safe to build these flats here. Thanks.
Roads have got an issue with the path being narrow. That is their issue.
Okay. Trevor.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I have a couple of issues. One about the footpath being very narrow. I've recently been out with someone who is in a motorised wheelchair, and I wasn't quite aware how difficult it is to get around our towns and villages in wheelchair. I have no experience of it, but I was absolutely shocked that just the most simplest footpath in the wrong place, a drop curb not in the right place, it can be really, really difficult. And if the council are telling us that it's not wide enough, that is a concern. The next thing is, I've just obviously been told in this meeting that 2 of the parking spaces, they're supposed to be 12, but they have concerns about 2 of the parking spaces. So we're technically could well be down to 10 parking spaces. And while I understand that the ownership of cars can be less in this type of property, the problem is if you have where there's 2 people and they have 2 cars, and all of a sudden you have not enough parking spaces, and then that causes animosity amongst the residents. So I have concerns about the parking and the footpath. Thank you.
Bob, your hand was up there. Trevor, I'll let you back in.
Oh, that was it. Thanks, Chair.
Right. Trevor, you want back in?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Right. What about yourself, Bob? I've seen your hand there waving.
Yeah, it was just I want to come back in with a proposal, Chair.
Right. Well, first of all, we're going to move a proposal, which the fact that there's so much debate, I'll allow the proposal to come from the floor. First of all, is there anyone? Well, let's go first. We'll go with yourself then. If you're going to go.
Yeah, I would propose that this passes, Chair.
Right. Is there a second to that?
I would
That Bill.
I would second it, Bill.
Sandy. Michael.
I'll second that.
Right. I've got it. Right. I've got. Right.
Councillor Stubbs is in the chat bar. I'm not sure if it's with a proposal or on the application.
I see him there now. Councillor Stubbs.
As colleagues know, I'm always very sympathetic, particularly for the building of affordable and social homes, but I'll be moving the recommendations based on the objections from roads, that it's not safe for pedestrians and road users if this development goes ahead, and the lack of parking. Okay, is there a seconder for that?
Yeah,
I'll second that.
It's seconded by Alan Beveridge. Okay.
Can we just clarify something just before we go ahead, if you don't mind?
I don't mind. Yeah, on you go.
Right, it's just because I hear the parking issue coming up in a couple of instances there, and obviously, for what I'm hearing is from Mary Ann saying the parking is acceptable by council standards. So I don't know if parking would be one that we could use.
It can be.
That's up to the officer to determine that, right? So I think that would be relevant, all things considered. Anyway, Mark, I'm leaving it with you now.
Right. Chair, I'm just going to bring some clarity. So Councillor Stubbs, seconded by Councillor Beveridge, has moved that the application be refused as per the officer recommendation. Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Watson, I think it was, moved that the application be granted. Councillor Burgess, I need to get back to you to get a material consideration as to why the application should be granted. I think you're on mute, Councillor Burgess.
Sorry, I thought I was with you. No, I would, on the consideration of the fact that it's affordable housing that's being built, and just adding it on to the fact that there is another build near it, because I don't see any difference.
Right, so I'm going to take from that, Councillor Burgess, is that the visual impact is in keeping with other buildings in the location. Is that what you're saying?
That's fine, Mark. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So, and it's been seconded. and so has the refusal been moved and seconded. We'll go to the vote then.
Yep. So just to clarify, convener, just for the motion is to refuse the application. The amendment is to grant the application. So, Councillor Beveridge,
Refuse.
Councillor Burgess,
Sorry, Mark, I got interrupted there. What is, are we first? Is the motion first?
the amendment is the amendment would be to grant.
Right, amendment, thanks.
Councillor Michael Coyle,
Amendment.
Councillor Sophia Coyle,
Amendment grant.
Councillor Douglas,
Motion.
and we're going down to Councillor Lennon,
Motion.
and we're then going down to Councillor McGowan,
Amendment.
Councillor McKendrick,
Amendment.
Councillor McLaren,
Motion.
Councillor McManus,
Amendment.
Councillor McPake,
Motion.
Councillor McVeigh,
Motion.
Councillor Quigley,
Amendment.
Councillor Redding,
Motion.
Councillor Shields,
Motion.
Councillor Stubbs,
Motion.
finally Councillor Watson.
Amendment.
Thank you. The motion has attracted 9 votes and the amendment has attracted 8 votes, so the application is refused. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, that's all the business. Can I just finish off by saying, this is our last meeting. I'll just finish off by thanking a few people, if you don't mind. Thank all the councillors, first of all, for their patience over the last 5 years. All those that have been here from the start or past and present. I thank you all. I thank all the officers that have come and put contributions in here. They've did so with a lot of professionalism and patience. Their contributions have been great. A lot of skill and preparations had to go into a lot of this, and I have to thank all those for that. Again, I have to thank Mark Hamill. Mark has been, as far as I'm concerned, has been invaluable to me in my 5 years as convener. Also as my convener of Human Resource Appeals. I think, Mark, I've asked you some stupid questions over the last 5 years and you've never batted an eyelid. And I've found out later on they were stupid questions and you never even indicated one way or another. That's the height of professionalism, and I have to thank you for that. I have to thank my vice convener, Jim Redden. Jim's been there throughout the 5 years behind me. And I thank him. Jim has stepped in a couple of times through my ill health and maybe in holiday, and he's taken it in his stride and did it well. It's a height of his experience in local government. There was no problem with that. And again, I'd like to thank all the elected members, past and present, has been on this. And just to say that if you're standing for local government again at the next election, I wish you all good luck. And if you're not standing, I wish you good luck in your endeavours in the future. Thanks very much.
Well, thanks to the chair. Well done.
Thanks to the chair. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks to the chair.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.